Welcome, everyone, and it's really wonderful to have everybody here for Jai's talk. Jai is very experienced in psychological truths and has a very deep understanding of how those things work. And so today she's going to be talking about relationships. It's just really exciting, and I think she has a lot to share with us that's going to be useful for the rest of us. And I believe, Jai, that you have used the work, Byron Katie's The Work, to do a lot to improve your relationships. So I think that's really about it. You want to take it away, Jai?
Okay, thank you. I want to welcome everybody. And I am holding a sword. I hope everyone can hear me, because this sword is part of my reality as a woman, as a warrior, as a person who embraced a kind of religion that embraces the warrior. And the warrior went from the outside of me to the inside. My name is Narayan. It's my spiritual name. My Sikh teacher gave me this name. It means the Supreme Lord of Devotion, perfected and manifested. I am a spiritual warrior. All of my life I have aligned with the energy of the warrior. My sword is mine, made intense by the love of my inner teacher. It is a visible sign of an intensely sensitive soul. My sword cuts through illusions, projections, and misinterpretations. I seek the spiritual high peaks of truth, wisdom, and love. Okay. Thank you all for coming. My talk is about my personal walk from self-acceptance and the transformation of my relationship with myself. I will take you through a thumbnail sketch of my birth, life, and the alchemy of spiritual transformation through relationships, beginning with my first one, my mother. There were thousands of seen and unseen beings that helped me. The focus of my talk is about my relationship to my mother and the deep transformational work that took me back to my whole self. When I was born, my mother was in the throes of her first mental breakdown. I was wounded by my experience of her prolonged catatonic state, and I came to believe that she rejected me. The belief was turned into a thought that I was not worthy of love. A wound opened. With the misinterpretation of the beginning of my life, I framed every new experience with victim eyes. Relieving this wound and thoughts enabled me to put the chains of bondage on. Little did I know that with the heavy mantle of self-doubt and eventually self-wounding, that I would grow to understand that this was a key in this wound that could set me free. My tale is the journey from bondage to spiritual transformation. My journey was to individuate, become a unique self amid the chaos of my scattered childhood, an impossible task. I embraced my guardian angel because my very survival depended upon it. I would envision my personal angel above me with his beautiful wings folded. He was my constant companion, and still is. I was very devoted as a Catholic and prayed nightly. When I was a small child, I was given a very large book about St. Francis of Assisi. He became very important to me. His gentle relationships with animals inspired me. And in church, in the back of church, there was a large stained glass window that my grandmother had bought and had installed. It had been ordered from France, and it was the image of Saint Michael the Archangel. I would gaze upon this stained glass. I would gaze upon that image of Saint Michael, and I aligned myself with that warrior energy. I became a warrior. When I was 10 years old, while at the library, I was shot from bottom to top with a lightning strike from Kundalini. I never forgot that wake-up call. My wound was constantly re-stimulated by my mother's breakdowns throughout my young years and my teenage years. In my 20s, I fell deeply in love. A love so strong that it hit me like a lightning flash. It was love at first sight. I felt quite literally like I adored this man. I adored the very ground that he walked upon. In retrospect, I can see that this was yet another attempt to wake me up from my belief of being unlovable. With a pain in my heart, I walked away from that love but never forgot. For decades, I thought the big love was attached to him and that I had lost it when I walked away. To this day, I am still unpacking and learning about that download of love energy. But when I was 20, I was not able and equipped to learn my greatest lesson. I was totally ignorant that there was a veil over my light and my being. What I came to understand is that this belief of being unlovable helped me to grow, and it was a tool that was given to me to release myself from this bondage. But that was yet to come, and I was doing the best I could. So for decades, I accepted the belief that all I could have were destructive relationships and that they were normal, until I got the second shot of Kundalini and began my journey home to me. My passage was slow enough for me to learn the lessons. What I came to learn was that the first, longest, and most important relationship in my whole life was with myself and in combination to my divine self. As the person who lived outside of myself and saw myself as unlovable, I will share with you a little of what transpired in my pursuit of love and being loved. When I was in my early 30s, I met a charming man. He was my lover. I was in the final year of art school creating my painting thesis. I was in my studio, which was in my house, and suddenly I was seized by a terrible pain in my heart. I began to cry uncontrollably. I ripped at the paper image with my nails. He was with someone else. I could feel it. The sensation of him making love to someone else shot through my body. I walked away from the painting. There, at the end of the hall, was a table with a small folded piece of paper on it. It held my attention. I unfolded it and called the number. On the other side of the line, she was breathing heavily. I asked if he was there. She said he was in the shower. When he came home, I told him to leave, and he threatened to hurt me physically. Clearly, something had to change. This is key 15 from the tarot. This is the devil. I was born in the month of January, under the sign of Capricorn. Key 15 is assigned to Capricorn sun sign. When I meditated upon the devil card, I can see my bondage to limitation and false beliefs. The devil is not what he appears to be. He's an angel with hidden light. If we look past the veil of illusion, we can see what really is. My task in this life was to dismantle the belief that I was unlovable. Laughter is a key to unlock my serious point of view. Imagine a life without love. Well, that's no fun at all. Under this illusion, I was born. I could not see beyond my own projected belief. This belief hurt me every time I framed my life within this falsehood. I was told I could take the chains off. They were loose, and they could easily be lifted off. I was told I could take them off, and yet my frustration and inability to do this simple task created a kind of heat. I was busy fighting for the rights of others so that they could have freedom, but it was a freedom I so desperately wanted. Back to my story. Near the end of that dissolving relationship, the one that was so difficult, I had experienced this. One day I was doing a simple yoga breathing exercise. that was called a pranayama. My body was relaxed, my back on the floor and my legs bent. I was deeply releasing any tension in my body, and it was warm and comfortable that morning. I had the yoga book open next to me. I followed the instructions for an 8-breath pranayama. It instructed me to inhale to the count of 8, hold the breath for a count of 8, then release the air once again for a count of 8, holding the breath out for 8. I was on the 6th round when a sensation that I had never experienced before began at the base of my spine. This sensation rushed up my spine with a force beyond my control. I became uneasy. I sat up. It stopped. The next day, while doing the same pranayama, it happened again. This time, the sensation went up higher and with more force. I jumped to my feet. My heart was pounding. Later that day, I went to work at the natural foods restaurant. That experience had shaken me up, and I told a coworker about what had happened to me. She gave it a name. It's Kundalini energy, she said. Then she told me about a group at the ashram that did Kundalini yoga, and they were having a class that evening. After work, I jumped on my bike and pedaled over. I stopped and stood across the street from the ashram, and I saw the turbaned people all dressed in white. I was conflicted, stuck, there across the street from my experience that I wanted to have. I knew that walking across that street would change my entire life. As I stood across the street from the ashram, I reviewed the love affair, which had turned violent. How my ability to continue with this man, it was completely clear it was no longer possible. As I walked across the street, I could feel an energy turning, changing, and my heart was flipped and filled with hope. Little did I know what was waiting inside for me. A cleansing, a releasing of troubled relationships, the worst being my relationship to myself. It was a bump, a reset, a conscious choice and focus on the next phase of my life. Conscious relationships became my desire. For a long time, I lived in Sikh ashrams and had many moving experiences with Kundalini energy. Along with the energy came some really interesting experiences with light. And I could feel my body changing. I could feel it affecting every part of me. I was doing a rigorous sadhana every morning from 4 in the morning until 6 in the morning. I would wake up at 3 or 3:30, rub my body with oil, jump into a cold shower, and dress in my yoga classes and go down and do yoga, then chanting, and listen to a reading from the Siddhi Guru Granth Sahib. And that is the last guru of the Sikh gurus. There were 10, and the book is the last. It's number 11. That is the living tome from the mouth of the guru, which means that when you read it, you're actually channeling the live energy of the teacher. Guru means that which takes you from darkness to light. So these experiences increased my sense and my energy of being an avatar role of being a warrior, which clearly was now becoming manifested and celebrated. My name was chosen by my teacher to be Jai Narayan. I wanted that name so badly. I had gone to a solstice, a summer solstice, and I had done tantric, which is called white tantric, which is quite interesting. It's not sexual, it's more a combining of energies on a much more etheric level. It's physical as well, it's very rigorous. But I had done my tantric with a man named Narayan, and I absolutely fell in love with that name. I even thought maybe I had to marry him to get that name. But lo and behold, when I finally did get my name, I got Jai Narayan. I was so thrilled. I even saw it in dreams. So this name means the Supreme Lord of Devotion, perfected and manifested. So I felt imbued with the energy of the spiritual warrior. Sorry. One evening in the ashram, I attended an advanced pranayama class. We were taught a 1-hour advanced meditation. After the class, I felt a shift in my energy. I practiced this meditation on several occasions after that. In one session, the energy once again moved. This time, my entire body, from my fingertips, the base of my spine, my legs, all the way up my body, felt like an entire full body orgasm. It was beyond any orgasm I had ever known. So when the energy reached the crown of my head, the very top of my head, called the 7th chakra, I popped out. And at that point, all I experienced was a profound silence. No sound, no light, no thoughts. None of my usual senses registered. A quiet that my mind could not understand. The energy rushed back into my shaking body, and my life shifted again. I now understood that my initial belief that I was unlovable was the beginning step of a long journey. The transformation had begun, but the realization of who and what I really was slowly unfolding. The journey I thought was to another person, an outer manifestation, ended up being a walk back to myself as a whole person. I began using Byron Katie's The Work to examine my beliefs. I have worked weekly on these beliefs now for over 5 years. I have tugged on the roots of my false beliefs. I have brought into the light of day hidden thoughts that I had blindly accepted as truth. The most profound belief was that I was unlovable. I came to repeat this phrase: nothing outside of me can ever give me what I'm looking for. And at first that just seemed like an unusual thing to be saying. It seemed right, but I really didn't understand it until the pivotal point when suddenly I got it. So at that point, I pivoted and turned to my home base. I came home to me, to my individuation, and thus it began. And it was a kind of falling in love with myself, which was really quite lovely, quite extraordinary. And I was amazed how unique I was, how I had this one body, and this body that I'm in is no one else's, and this one human lifetime as this personality. I began to celebrate this love, my personality, my body, my being. I saw it clearly as a gift, a temple, my very own Merkaba. As that love grew within me, I became whole. As that wholeness reached its maturation point, I began to see a new world, a shimmering reality. I began to love, a love so vast that my human heart could not contain it. This love gushed out. As this love grew, my core wound began to heal. This healing seemed impossible earlier, but now this experience was finally happening. I could love and be loved. As my gaze shifted into the deep love, the big love, there was nothing else but love. It spilled out all over the place. It was like a river of grace just flowing. Love was everywhere, which led me to gaze deeply into the big love. A love so vast that my human self could not understand, but could only experience. Which leads me to the talk of the one love. This is the key 6 of the lovers. And this key illustrates to me the one love. And it's a love that is born of the one to the many and back to the one. Through discrimination, I learned the lesson of duality. My whole life, I saw myself as two beings, and they were opposite yet chained together. One being good, the other being bad. One day, one was white light and the other was shadow black. What I came to realize was that the opposites really were different aspects of the one thing, that they were complementary. The sun in the background of this key is a symbol of enlightenment, and the one force which is differentiated into pairs of opposites. Within key 6 is the Hebrew letter Zain, which means sword. Sword, the instrument I came to use as my tool to separate truth from illusion, cutting through and cutting out the illusion of the world of appearances. Without this capacity to discern one thing from another, we could not be aware and consciously come to know the big S self. All opposites are actually two presentations of the one thing. The lovers stand together willingly, not chained to illusion. They are naked and therefore have nothing to hide from each other. Gemini is attributed to this key. My mother was born into that sun sign. Gemini means the twins. Upon my birth, she split into the many aspects of an illness called manic depression, or what is currently called bipolar. Within her mood illness, a dynamic pair of opposites became manifested. She was struck by the use of a harnessed form of lightning, electric shock therapy. With each stroke of this terrible grace, she forgot who or what she was. She was shocked out of her mind. So she was often returned to her family as a changed being. I may tell her story in future at some time. There is harmony and wholeness pictured in the image of key 6. Love is wholeness, one with the other, an awakened union of the child with the self. I have come to learn that while illusion is necessary, delusion is not. The serpent represents the occult force known as Kundalini. Yes, here it was, Kundalini. A bump, a reset, a conscious choice and focus on the next phase of my life, a flowering of exquisite energy. Conscious relationships became my desire. From the one to the many and back to the one. When I close my 2 eyes, I can see through the one eye, the big self, the one eye beyond all duality, the one eye in my heart, the union of my mind and heart. I ask myself, what is love? What happens inside of me when love comes through me? I can recognize love as an energy that I open to and receive, that I allow to saturate my entire being, my most tender places opening. When my beloved comes to me in the form of another human, you, I open to your world. My world opens to you. Our worlds become a shared experience. When this shared love becomes one, it appears that nothing can tear this love apart or pull it into two ever again. When two become one, no one can stop that union. When conflict comes, as it must, the two that are now one develop a method of communication. Then the two that have become one go into a sense of friction. The rubbing of the joined worlds creates a heat that either burns more brightly or dissipates. If the two who have become one work through this heat, then a third thing evolves out of the cauldron of fire. The third thing is the divine chalice, the manifested body of God. The alchemy has begun. In the transformation, which is a process that is old as the first human being, begins anew. Through this friction, the tumbling of one's being with another, the personality changes. If both treat each other with kindness and patience and build that rainbow bridge of communication, then they go forth through their lives together as the one that they formed with their love. When this process opens to a world at large, when the two that have become one move through time and space, helping each other to become what they have desired to become, Through the unit of their love, they each allow the other to explore the lessons that were brought in through the soul or divine self to realize in this one precious lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you, Jai. What a wonderful talk. Oh my God, how wonderful. Everyone, if you would like to make comments or questions in text, you can do so, and I will try to keep track of those and read them to Jai. If you'd like to speak in voice, please type a 1 before you begin. Wow, this was incredible. Thank you, Jai. Very, very moving. I think we need some time to sort of absorb this was such a deep talk and so beautifully done. Thank you. We're all just kind of pondering what you brought through to us. Paloma says, here's my 2 cents worth. It's the silence that's what we also are beneath the person and the beliefs. Beliefs are embedded in the personality from who knows where, society, television, muggles, but returning to the non-thinking silence is key, and from there all thoughts and so on become add-ons. How one settles the mind down, I do not know. Perhaps it will calm down, perhaps it never will. But all is within the silence, and it is our awareness that we are, and this all has all of reality within it. There is no separation except that which the thoughts label as separate. And then Denny says, it was good, we, the 2 of me, so love stories.
Nearly, and backup mom, I realize I did just give the talk, so you missed the talk, which is too bad. But I'm so glad you're here for what you can be here for. And this is the discussion about right relationship, in a sense, to oneself. What it's like to go through a life, to start as the one being, from the divine self, and then begin the process of what is necessary to individuate and to learn the lessons of duality, and then from there to bring it back around to learn the lessons of what it means to remove the illusion of our belief systems and look at reality as it is, and then join back into the one thing. Rich, full, like compost, completely ready to produce something else. And then you celebrate the love with another, the relationship with another, and how one can do that once the union from within has occurred. Yeah.
And backup mom says, and perhaps embrace paradigm shifts in thinking. What do you say, Jai?
Well, paradigm shifts are massive. Yes, they're huge. And I kind of feel like, we can go through our shifts, which are wonderful, and they feel like paradigm shifts, but a paradigm shift is huge. It's a massive shift that I see it as great groups of people are in that wave and are experiencing that change. And once we are aligned within ourselves, we are aligned within others, and we love others in the way that, you can't stop loving others. You can't stop loving yourself. Then I think something different can be created. And that's when a paradigm shift occurs. It's like the 100th monkey, that example has been used a lot. But it's a wave of some tremendous energy that can roll us all along in our own evolution. That's how I sort of see it.
Okay, so Paloma says, damn it. Paloma says, Paloma says, Paloma says, the trick is not to think for a little while. From there, the truth is in your face. The oneness. Thinking is epic fail for finding the truth. And would you like to address that, Jai, before we go on?
Well, I think when we are faced with the truth, we don't know what it is. And it's that no mind, that no ability to define, that inability to say what it is. We see it as something new when we don't know what it is. And we just simply can gaze at it. We can say, what is this? This is, it's a whole new experience. It's a very, very intense experience. And to look at the face of God, so to speak, that's a lot of light to take in. But without the veils of illusions or delusion, the face of God is pretty bright.
Okay, and Joe says, the path of devotion is a very powerful path. The final step is when a merging occurs and we are the beloved. And I believe that's a quote from Ram Dass.
I've been listening to Ram Dass now for about 2 months. I listen to him every day for hours. I believe I shared this with Joe. And he is talking about the Bhagavad Gita. And he does 12 hours of talk. And a lot of it is just a whole lot of fun. He's like a spiritual comic. He's wonderful. So, yes. And when he got his name, people were kind of chiding him. And they said, oh, your name, Ram Dass, why does it have to be an Indian name? And he said, yeah, some people even said rammed ass. Anyway, and then he said, well, what did they want me to be, Dick? Anyway, I thought it was so funny. I think the guy is marvelous, and he is definitely one of my many teachers. And yes, to turn to the self, I could not become what I am today by abandoning myself unwhole. So, when I was little, I thought to get to God, I could just shove myself aside and not deal. So I pushed a lot of myself into my shadow and just not deal with the fact that I wasn't a whole person. But this whole time on the planet, what a gift, this whole time to really grow and change and see and learn. And it's funny because people really want to get there really fast. But actually, this whole process of getting there slowly is pretty remarkable. And it's a real intense celebration. And it's a very long one, which is kind of fun. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know if I answered that.
Okay, so Denny says, White Fur and I have been trying to merge. He's speaking as Dark Fur, to merge, and I've been following his way of love and light. But until then, we are separate, as my 2 profile pics he wrote for me speak of, Denny Dark Fur and 2 wolves. And if you...
Well, Danny, I would say celebrate that. When the 2 are 2, there's lots to be learned. When the dark and the light come together, you'll know when it comes together. It won't be hidden from you. But celebrate the separation. There's a lot to be learned from discrimination. Looking at this or that, the duality is jam-packed full of lessons. Don't miss out on a single one. It's a great, rich life. Yeah.
Paloma says there's 2 paths in meditation anyway. Devotion is contemplating God, and one realizes there is no separation. The other way is to get onto the silence and find a merging with God from there. And Rod Run says, great seeing you, thank you, you are beautiful. Oh, how dear.
Well, the funny thing about God funny thing about God is God really loves us so much. And I'm using the term God because it's just so easy. You know, we could say Goddess, we could say all the names. They're all wonderful names, and I love them all. But God really loves looking through our eyes at this unbelievable creation and really loves the walk out into this manifested place, but loves also the walk back. When we turn and look at the face of God within ourselves, that walk back is just a giant celebration. And then God can look through our eyes, and we can look through God's eyes. And it's just, you know, I'm a cook. It's a wonderful soup. It's a marinade. It's just delicious. I'm a foodie.
Okay, and Paloma says, God, not the white-bearded gentleman in heaven.
Could be. You never know. I have no idea. You know, it's funny. When I went to that really incredible place in my Kundalini experience, I saw a long table with a lot of men with white hair and big white beards. And I thought, oh, come on. I think there were 11 of them. I said, come on. I'm seeing men with white beards. So you never know. I think that there's a lot of humor. There are a lot of jokes. It's like in dreams. Sometimes in dreams you can get wonderful jokes in dreams. Yeah, recently Maya was sharing this fabulous, really funny dream. So we get these wonderful jokes in dreams. You know, it's just a wonderful experience to laugh. It's like the sound of heaven. You know, it's the song of heaven. If we can laugh. And when I saw all those white bearded men, I had to laugh. It was just like, oh, come on. What dream is this? But anyway, they really were there. And as funny as it seems, they were there. And maybe you wouldn't see a white bearded man, Paloma. Maybe you'd see something that would be your own way of seeing. It would be fashioned in the way that would be important for you. Because as in dreams, our language, our interior language is for us. You know? The inner teacher, that's a wonderful teacher. And if we get to see a reflection out there, like if I see a reflection of my inner teacher in Ram Dass, how lovely. I can laugh. Or Eckhart Tolle, what a funny man. I love his humor. I mean, they're these wonderful, wonderful people who just, carry the word, and they're really delightful. And they really help us to lighten our load. Because, you know, illusion is a very heavy burden. It's really hard to carry. It's quite thick and deep and really difficult. So.
Okay, so Denny says we are one, and the one is God. He, she, it loves us, and thus he, she, it loves himself, herself, itself. Which is wonderful. We have about 12 minutes left, so if there are any more comments or questions, okay. Paloma says, bliss in the oneness or seeing God is no emotion, it is outside of the mind. There's an urge to feel joy, but that's really a barrier, and one thus is clinging to a personality trait.
Wonderfully said. That's great. Yes, there's this amazing neutrality that can come. And it's yes, I totally agree. But isn't it fun to be jovial and have fun and laugh? I like that too. But I think there's a difference. There's a difference when one crosses over a certain kind of a shift. There's kind of a general acceptance of the self. There's actually a deep love between the little self and the big self. There's a deep bond and a deep love. So the big self always loves us, but we don't know that. Once we know that, once we can feel that, it's pretty amazing. It's an undying love because it's not born or died. It's constant. So it's really nice to tap in to that love because it's really it never stops giving. It's just endless. What am I? I'm stumbling. Sorry.
No, you're not stumbling at all. You were really expressing some beautiful thoughts. Thank you. Denny says God loves the costumes we put together for him, her, it, and likes the white bearded gentleman look. And backup mom says, I like that, Denny. And Maya says, illusion doesn't get a lot of traction on the steep slopes. And Shamba, I don't know, do you want me to continue or you want to respond to any of those? They're kind of fun. Then Shamala says, it's so wonderful to get to know you so personally, Jai. Your story of evolution is inspiring. Thank you for sharing such depth. And Maya says, blessings and abundance. And Joe says, your insight is amazing. And you deserve all this and more. This was just astoundingly deep and wonderful and fun. Thank you.
And thank you, everybody. God, thank you, everybody.
Well,
It's just wonderful to have witnesses to this. I mean, I understand something about the whole witness. There are certain churches where they do that. They witness for each other. And it's a unique and very, very special occasion. It's like a birthday. It's like I'm being born again. And you all are here to bring me to this new life. Thank you.